think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me?
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd?
Not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
That's the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the best man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the best man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger.
Terence Crawford pushed back against Floyd Mayweather's remarks with confidence, saying he believes he could beat the former champion, even at Mayweather's peak. Crawford highlighted that his legacy is built on facing every challenge that came his way, and he rejected the idea that he's ever avoided opponents. He added that if the opportunity for a Mayweather matchup had ever been real, he wouldn't have shied away from it either.
And he started going like this, and then that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career is all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me the question. I always be like, man, it's whatever it's their opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, but one thing they can't say is that I ducked anyone. I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Boxing writer Dan Raphael believes Terence Crawford has already done enough to secure his place among the sport's all-time greats. According to Raphael, Crawford's resume speaks for itself. He has cleaned out divisions, unified world titles, and consistently handled top-tier competition without exposing any flaws. At this stage, Raphael argues, it isn't about proving anything further, but about protecting the legacy Crawford has built and enjoying the recognition he's earned. In his view, extra fights would add little to Crawford's historical standing, since his recent dominance already ensures that he'll be remembered as one of boxing's elite champions.
What does a Terence Crawford do now? Like, what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that ultimate chance if he goes up again? And do you say, what do you do?
I don't quit. Yeah, I mean, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggested about possibly pursuing a fight with Ennis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yeah.
That's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fans. So yeah. I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, yeah. But I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy's really big. I mean, that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to two weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And he's going to have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not going to necessarily keep the belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. For example, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. Mm-hmm. That was, fight of the year against Lester Martinez, candidate for fight of the year.
Terence Crawford's dominant performance against Canelo Alvarez has sparked intense debate in the boxing world. Many fans and analysts quickly drew comparisons to Floyd Mayweather's earlier victory over the Mexican star. The distinction, of course, is that Mayweather beat a young and relatively untested Canelo, while Crawford dismantled a far more seasoned and experienced version. That contrast has led some to argue that Crawford's win carries greater weight. But as analyst Luke Thomas points out, context matters. Mayweather reached elite status much earlier in his career, consistently taking on top-tier opponents while still in his 20s. Crawford's rise, by contrast, was slowed by limited promotional backing and a lack of recognition, meaning his biggest moments came later in his career. Because of this difference in timing, Thomas cautions against declaring Crawford superior to Mayweather historically. Even if Crawford's display against Canelo looked more commanding, career trajectory and era still play a major role in how the two legacies are measured.
This was a masterclass. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. The people who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA, because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford, because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in his whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. When you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now, that's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao, because he got these opportunities so late.
That's the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He can find you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the terms in there. It's just insane.
Trainer Buddy McGirt was one of the loudest voices praising Terence Crawford after his win over Canelo Alvarez, calling it a showcase of total dominance. In McGirt's view, Crawford dictated the action from the opening bell, never allowing Canelo to set the tempo or rely on his trademark pressure. He argued the victory was so decisive that a rematch would be unnecessary, since the difference in skill and execution was plain to see. McGirt added that by defeating a fighter of Canelo's caliber in such convincing fashion, Crawford finally secured the legacy he had long pursued. This victory, he explained, gives Crawford the defining moment that solidifies his greatness for both fans and boxing historians. In McGirt's eyes, Crawford no longer has anything left to prove. His triumph over Canelo stands as a lasting testament to his place among the sport's legends.
Yes.
Like, what fight were they watching?
Right.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got here and dominate from beginning to end, and then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is, and you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those scorecards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But, I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at that stage in his career right now, that it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? What we saw that night, that's the stage Canelo's at right now. He's fought everybody, he's did everything. But, you know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He lost it to Terence, fair and square, and he passed the torch. So, you're going to have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
When Terence Crawford is measured against Floyd Mayweather, many experts emphasize the mental side of Mayweather's game as the quality that kept him a step ahead. Crawford is praised as a technical master, capable of switching stances with ease, adjusting mid-fight, and methodically breaking opponents down. Yet, analysts argue that Floyd carried an added dimension. He didn't just outbox his rivals physically, he outthought them, applying psychological pressure that disrupted strategies and forced mistakes. This ability to dominate both before and during the fight is often cited as the key separator. Crawford's skill set leaves little room for doubt about his greatness. But the aura of control and mental gamesmanship that Mayweather brought into every contest is what, for many historians, elevates him above. The comparison shows how close Crawford is to Mayweather's level, while also underlining the unique psychological edge that defined Floyd's style.
Hagler, Hearns. I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like, I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. Bud, and this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it right, the best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough, Floyd's not a bad man, but there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked, gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights. And he was Errol Spence.
For more than 10 years, Terence Crawford has demonstrated his brilliance in the ring, yet his reserved nature and lack of showmanship often kept him out of the spotlight. Unlike fighters who thrive on bold statements and flashy antics, Crawford chose to let his performances do the talking. That approach earned him the respect of boxing purists but limited his visibility with casual fans during the early stages of his career. It wasn't until his headline victories over Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez that the wider public began to recognize the scope of his greatness. Still, some observers argue that this long overdue acknowledgement has arrived late, with Crawford now deep into his career. While he may continue to add to his list of accomplishments, the window to cement a lasting mainstream legacy is narrowing, prompting speculation about how differently his career might have been received had he been in the spotlight much earlier.
How great he was. Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their eras equally.
Floyd Mayweather has often faced criticism for refusing to give full recognition to other greats. Most notably, his reluctance to concede that Muhammad Ali, widely regarded as the greatest ever, stands above him. Now, with Terence Crawford accomplishing milestones that put him in similar conversations, questions about Mayweather's ego have resurfaced. Crawford's emphatic win over Canelo Alvarez has fueled debates that place him alongside Mayweather in boxing's historical hierarchy. For someone as fiercely protective of his legacy as Floyd, this shift is difficult to embrace. Critics suggest that Mayweather thrives on being viewed as the ultimate standard of boxing greatness, and when another fighter begins to share that pedestal, it strikes at his pride. This perception of envy has led some to believe that Mayweather struggles with seeing anyone celebrated on his level, adding extra tension to how he reacts publicly to Crawford's rise.
Puts him on par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. Very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right? Because Floyd is now has a fight coming up. I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe this is going to be an exhibition.
Sean Porter sat down with Terence Crawford to discuss what fueled his decision to take on the toughest challenges in boxing. Crawford admitted that for much of his career, critics questioned his ability to compete with the sport's elite. Instead of shrinking from the doubt, he leaned into it, using it as motivation to prove himself on the biggest stages. His dominant wins over Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez not only stand as defining milestones in his career, but also as deeply personal triumphs that silence years of skepticism.
Close to him when you want to, not when he wants you to. And you know what I mean? That's how it was.
I know, I'm sorry, I know this is bad production, but we don't need you to turn that phone to the side. I know, I'm thinking about Haiti right now. I'm like, you know better. That's better. Go ahead, Ant, go ahead.
Hey, but you know how, man, me and Sean, we know you personally. I had people telling me, nah, man, this is just a money grab. He just went up there for the money. I said, man, if you know this dude, but you mentally, bro, I put you in the same category as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I'm like, he wants to be great. Y'all want the money, but want to be great. Where that come from, man?
It's just me, you know what I mean? Like, I think all the greats is just born with that competitiveness, you know? And like I said, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want me to accomplish the feat over Canelo. It wasn't that it wasn't possible. They didn't want me to be the one to do it because I was the one that they was blackballing for years. I was the one that they said, you know, wasn't gonna make it to this table. I was the one that they said couldn't sell. I was the one that they said, you know, made bad business decisions. So of course they don't want me to be the one to make it to the top and then conquer.
Porter pointed out that Crawford's eagerness to confront adversity reveals the rare mindset that separates him from many fighters. While others might have opted for safer opposition, Crawford deliberately sought out the toughest challenges to prove he belonged at the sport's highest level. That mentality, Porter explained, is what has propelled him into the conversation of all-time greats. Crawford's legacy, then, is not built on talent alone, but also on the resilience and determination that have defined his journey.
All odds, because now this is a slap in the face to every person that ever wrote a bad article about me, about anything.
Probably the best fit of all. And a lot of people get mad at me because I said, when it comes from pound for pound that I ever seen it in my lifetime, ever, I got Floyd and I got you. They're like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? I said, this is what I seen. I seen Bud, I seen Floyd. I can't talk about what happened in the 20s and the 40s. I can talk about what I seen now. Do you feel like, Bud, you stamped your legacy and we're going to forever say, well, you could have beat this person, you could beat that person, you feel like you did it?
Of course, it's definitely going to be, it's already written in the history books. Yeah. Like before, everybody was already comparing me and saying things like that, but hold on. Yeah. Okay. But now, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so now he proving himself with a bigger, stronger guy in his weight division that he was undefeated in, that he was undisputed in, you know? So those things like that, you know, you can't ignore.
Hey man, how do you allow people not to put their limitations on you? Because when I gave motivation last week, I told them like how you motivated me to start my own company. and come out. I remember you been in my living in my kitchen, baby, start my own company. How do you allow no one else to put their limitations on Terence?
Easy. That's a wrap for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.